In the words of one of my favorite sheroes, I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, oh neighbor, every great dream begins with a dreamer. You have within the power, the patience, and the promise to reach for the stars and change the world. It is not impossible. It is I'm possible. If not you, who? If not now, when? Reverend Dylan, can you please pass the offering plate, my brother? My name is Melba Wilson. I bring you greetings from Harlem. Thank you.
Well, I said, let's let them the table. Melba says, pass the plates. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to Miss Melba Wilson. We do have a token of appreciation for her, and I'm just looking for the city manager. There he is, Melba. Melba, siyabonga thina South Africa. We say thank you to our guests. We are hospitable people. We are warm. Yes, and we are here to... Ooh, girl, now you're talking. Melba, please come back up to the stage. Now you're talking. Please, both of you, can you come up? Of course, we need to document the moment in the lights. Thank you so much.
To bring you guys some of that fried chicken that I beat Bobby Flay with, okay? I got you.
There's a value chain in that fried chicken, ladies and gentlemen. We have to get it here somehow fresh. Thank you. Excellent. Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my time on my clock is now 12:49. Let's take a comfort break. I've also just realized that we've been so absorbed in the program today, we haven't had a moment to take a quick stretch and a comfort break. Let's take a quick comfort break. Our sessions now with the streams, stream 1, 2, and then the quick swap over, stream 3 and 4, will kick off at 1 o'clock. In the preceding 10 minutes, please get out there, grab a cup of coffee on your way to your session, head to the ladies and gents, meet and greet old friends and new. But please know that at your venue, the session will start promptly at 1 o'clock. I'm looking for Mr. Kunene. Mr. Kunene, there you are, sir. Ngicela usondele. Somebody is looking for you.
climate adaptation efforts in response to rising threats to our coastal communities. But very importantly, there are also economic opportunities within the space of adapting and mitigating the effects of climate change. The access to funding and capital support, including development and financial support. So we're addressing those issues in this stream. I know that we kind of running behind time, so we're going to make it short and tight, but make sure you have the benefit and value from these esteemed speakers here on the panel. But as my job is to really be the captain of the ship, I'm not the driver. I'm just going to make sure that they are the main drivers here, and they will give us the critical content we need. So ladies and gentlemen, I also will try and make sure we find an opportunity. If there's any issues that the panel has presented and you still feel you're not clear about or you'd like to add, I'll give you that opportunity. So each of my panelists have a microphone. They're ready to rock and roll. So what I'd like to do, and I think you can speak from your chair there, just speak loud and clear. So what I'd like to do is I would like to give His Royal Highness the first platform to speak with us and share with us his thoughts of how we could make sure African opportunities and investment narratives realize value for our continent and for the partners globally. Over to you, Your Royal Highness.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. I bring you greetings from Harlem, USA, and I bring you greetings from Accra, Ghana. My name is Koa Ni Ayi Lawulu III, and I am a member of the Royal Ayi family. I was able to make this reconnection through my great-great-grandmother, who I call Queen Mother, who was a princess when she was captured and placed into slavery in 1816. And we've had a powerful opportunity to reconnect the family line. So I stand here not only as an African American, but as one of your brothers also from the motherland. What I would like to offer to this conversation of economic opportunities is the powerful role that entertainment, culture must play as we build these communities, and also the powerful role education must play, and particularly going into our disenfranchised communities and not only building infrastructure, but building strategies to free the colonized minds that have permeated and polluted so much of our possibility. I began with an organization in 2010 called I Dream, which was inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. But we once lived in a time where we had these great leaders like Dr. King, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Kwame Nkrumah, and we will still need great voices like those. But I firmly believe that we must find the dreamer, the Dr. King in each and every one of us. Each and every one of our lives matter, and each and every one of our young people's lives matter. You know, we're gathered now as this great group, but there's an absence of young people. When I saw the dancers perform on our opening night, those Zulu dancers, my eyes just started streaming with tears because in them I saw freedom, I saw power, I saw possibility. They were artists and they were young people. And I think this is a core place of opportunity for us. As we build these hotels, we should also be building theaters and building institutions for education. As we are creating opportunities for jobs and construction, there are also vibrant industries of entertainment where we can be creating jobs and opportunities. In the United States, entertainment is an over $3 trillion industry. Imagine uniting the diaspora with culture and commerce, using technology as a platform to make sure that our creativity is shared throughout the diaspora, and making sure at the same time we are decolonizing our minds by taking control of the false narratives. My story was told to me as if it began in slavery. I grew up believing that I was enslaved and that my possibility was limited by what I had experienced. My father in prison and a drug addict, my brother in prison and a drug addict. It was by visiting the plantation, the narrative of slavery, and discovering that my great-great-grandmother was not a slave. She was a princess who was captured. We are not enslaved. We are not limited in our possibility. We are all royal, and we are all full of possibility. And that is the narrative we must start sharing.
Thank you very much. And I think you've educated us, because I was listening to the inquiry in the United States about Spotify and all the creative people in the house who create music, and you create wonderful music. Spotify makes more money than the musicians. And the CEO of Spotify has never played a guitar in his life. And I think that's something we need to think about. How do we make sure that the value really creates opportunity and resource and money for the people that actually are producing it? And I think I'd like to stay with that train of thought as well. And we are really honored to have Mr. Ron Kunene here in the house with us. And Ron Kunene was one of those people that was the part of the Lion King, the first Lion King. And he's created an opportunity for many South Africans, particularly Durban South Africans, who have become part of the Lion King. And I'd really like Ron to share with us some of the thoughts and ideas that he has on this very important stream. Ron, over to you, sir.
Sanbonani. Ninjani. Hayi amazulu awakhulumi kanje. Sanbonani. Ninjani. Amazulu engiwaziyo ke lawo. Yeah, it's such a pleasure ukuhlangana nani lapha, and it's a great honor for us to be here today. Firstly, I would like to also acknowledge some of the guys that came with me here, all the way from Tema, all the way from Johannesburg, because they wanted to also make sure that they're here. Can they stand up, please? Oh, Joshua, come on, stand up, guys. Upu Zwane. Mr. Zwane, who used to head our South African Airways there. So, so that we are all here. And we are also having a big celebration of our 30 years in Johannesburg for Lion King. You'll watch that on television. We've partnered in a South African corporation. What I wanted to just say is that life is interrelated. We are caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied up by that single garment of mutuality. I heard Abantu Abaning talking about Ubuntu. Ubuntu without economic, it's useless. Because how can you help somebody when you don't have anything? So it's important for us to really come together, unify. There are things that we want to bring here with Daniel, with other celebrities from United States, people like Denzel Washington. I remember Denzel, who used to belong to what we call Artists for a New South Africa, with Angela Bassett, a number of other artists like Samuel L. Jackson, a lot of them. And he wanted to make an investment into South Africa. And that investment came about whereby he came and shot the movie Safe House. How many saw the movie Safe House? And that movie was shot where? In Cape Town. So we want also now to create an avenue here where we can shoot movies here in Durban, So we're gonna need a lot of support from you guys. We also want to make sure that our actors, as Mr. Apple Green has pointed out, with Lion King, we have 25 productions globally. Guess where we get most of our talent? In Durban. you know. So, yeah, let's give Disney a big hands over, because those people are buying houses, they are investing their money here, and they are earning money in dollars, they are earning money in pounds, they are earning money in euros. So please don't sleep on entertainment, on creative industry, because creative industry can make a serious change. We also are talking with the leadership of the city to come and create what we call immersive experience theaters here. Because people don't want to go to theaters and spend 2 hours in a dark room. They want something where there's some kind of interactiveness. So these are the things that we are looking to come and invest here in Durban. And also, as Daniel has pointed out, His Royal Highness Ukawo, to say that we need to also invest in our young people, okay? In that effort, we're teaming up with universities in the United States and academies to create a scholarship for our young kids so that they can be able to go and study there. I myself, I'm the benefit of that. I went to UCLA. I got a scholarship. So these are the efforts that we would like to really resuscitate, and I hope that together we can prosper. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mr. Kunene. And I think maybe you and I need to go and make sure we put more pressure on our city leadership and Mr. Anand Singh to build that film studio. Because I think the amount of opportunities that could come out of that film studio is immense. If you look at Universal Studios, you look at studios in the United States, it creates a lot of jobs down the line in the supply chain. So I think and we need to support our film office and our film commission and invest more in our local filmmakers. So that's something. And, I mean, I didn't realize that black coffee comes from Durban, right? Zakes Bantwini. We have amazing talent still, So we need to export that, but we also need to make sure that new talent is coming through all the time. So thanks, Mr. Kunene, for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Dr. Mafumbu. He's a climate change, I would say a climate change expert in the city system. He's going to talk about young people, but you don't have to sing, Mr. Mafumbu. Maybe Ron Kunene set the bar so high, but unfair not. So even if I sing, I think all the people would leave the wall here if I have to start singing. But over to you, Dr. Mafumbu.
Thank you for allaying my fears, because the bar is a little bit high. Next to me is the Royal Highness. I am not. And that side is the guy who can really sing with a loud voice, and I can't. I'm Dr. Mafumbu. Yes, that's me. My area of specialization is climate change and environmental science. You know what? I wanted to frame my talk around the conference, and I felt like maybe I mustn't be too much into science because it can box an inductive approach in as far as what is known, and I pose probing questions to trigger some thinking. I think first we cannot separate the historical aspect within the oceans economy agenda. Maybe that's where we need to start so that we can connect with the resurgence element. There's history around our coast, there's history around our oceans, and that history there's also bad history which we need to face, to acknowledge, and to reason around. Yeah, it is the same sea or the coast that enabled slavery, which you call capturing, because it was used as the mode of facilitating it. Yeah. It is the same sea that enabled colonialism and imperialism. You can from this side to that side, others were moving from that side to this side. Yeah. Then we can never rule out the significance of history when we talk about the coast. But because I am a doctor, I will also refer you to the paper which I wrote about the historical imperative of coastal access. You can just Google and read when I try to document the history, the timelines, how we as Africans, we used to relate to the sea before the colonial era, and what is the relationship after colonialism, and what is the relationship now. Because we cannot talk about oceans economy if we don't have a relationship with the coast, you know. If that relationship was interrupted, that's where we need to start, yeah. Then what we know about the ocean's economy, I'm not an economist. An economist is sitting next to me. I'm sure he can talk deep about economic aspect. We know that ocean's economy is a 2.3 trillion US dollar industry. In South Africa, it's a multi-billion industry, meaning it's an economic sector which is a fully fledged, yeah. And we also know that in terms of the area of coverage, the world is made up of 70% the sea and 30% the earth. It's a 70-30 split, you must keep it in mind, yeah. Therefore, whenever we fight about the land, also know that we need to fight about the space, ocean space, because ocean or the sea occupies more space than the earth where we are confined in. And then 40% of the world live in coastal areas, but we have to decode that again or debunk who sits there, who stays there, the youth stays there, you know. And 30% of South African population live within 60 kilometers of the coast. Again, we talk of youth. Now, in South Africa, we do have Operation Pakisa as the guiding policy which guides, regulate, and draw a roadmap about how to take advantage of. But I just want to point you to the sectors which are in Operation Pakisa so that we can see if do we have really the ability, capacity, and capabilities to unlock those opportunities there. Operation Pakisa talks about marine transport and marine manufacturing. Now the question is, who are occupying that space as we speak? Do they have the color? And is there any monopoly in that space? How many black people are in the maritime industry space? How many black people are having have done marine engineering in school so that they can possess the prerequisite skills to be meaningful players in that space? I will leave those questions with you. The second one is offshore oil and gas exploration. It's one of the key sectors there. Again, who are dominating that space? What is the role of us in that space as black people, you know? Aquaculture. Aquaculture is one of the key sectors in the Operation Pakisa. You know, whenever we talk about aquaculture, fishing and stuff, we as blacks were always confined into small, emerging subsistence farming sector, and we're comfortable with that. It's high time that we challenge those things so that we can get into the mainstream economy, you know. Then another one is marine protection and so on. Then lastly, under the oceans economy, I would love to pose a question because land ownership is everything. If you talk about oceans economy, we must talk about who owns the coast. That is one of the biggest questions that we must ponder on, because if we cannot answer that question, but we're ambitious about being players in the oceans economy without addressing the issue of ownership, we'll be missing the mark. What is the institutional arrangement of coastal complex in South Africa and in the world? Because there is a complex there. There are role players, there is a monopoly, there are people, there are players who have already safeguarded that space, you know. But I don't want to bore you with information again. I'm not doing myself. I've written a paper on contextualizing coastal access challenges in South Africa, where I problematize the phenomenon of privatization of the coast. But I can tell you that in terms of that study, you'll see 70% of the coastal land is in private hands, and 30% is in the state. But you can ask yourself, who is that private? Who's those private hands that are owning the coastal land? then whatever you do and say and imagine, then it must be based on it must be premised on that baseline information of ownership. I think maybe let me pause there on Ocean's economy side.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mafumbu. And I think you've agitated us and you've also made us aware of things that we need to, even in our partnership with the United States investors, it'd be nice to look at what lessons have you learned, what things have you done to ensure that the ports in Los Angeles or Baltimore or New York itself, how do you ensure that more young people, black people and women in particular, are part of those economic opportunities, and those companies have had success with that, what can they do with us here in our port of Durban? I mean, our port, we are really proud of it, but it's become a challenge in that the congestion issues and the slow turnaround time on containers and movement of goods and services out of the port is not at the level it should be. Saying that companies are losing money and it's not helping the growth of our economy. So that's something that even, I mean, I'm convinced that there are young technical people that can say to us older people, you know, that, listen, to use technology. Why you have all these trucks coming in the harbor? Let them wait their turn. They can be on a computer system that they'll only arrive there and the turnaround time will be quicker and the port will be more efficient. So there's a lot of ideas in the port. But also just last, Dr. Mafumbo, I think the issue of the circular economy. All of you in this audience, and particularly young people, there are huge opportunities in the circular economy to mitigate and adapt to climate change. Currently, this city, only 20% of our waste is recycled. 80% still goes to landfill, and that's not the ideal situation. That 80% is worth a lot of money, and it's not being harnessed. So that's something that we need to think about. So last but not least, Mr. Zwane, you don't have to sing as well, but if you can, we will not say no. But Mr. Mishak Zwane, he's from our provincial trade and investment public entity that works with the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, and their main role is to ensure that we have good economic intelligence, we've got systems in place to support local business, and we've got very strategic partners globally to come and invest in our city and in our province. Mr. Zwane, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eric. So basically, just to support, my name is Mishak Zwane, as the moderator is alluded to. I'm from Trade Investment KwaZulu-Natal. I'm an economist there. So what Doctor was alluding to now, it was actually exactly what we have as a province, what we call KwaZulu-Natal Integrated Maritime Strategy, which clearly outlines that we want to position the province, especially the city of Durban, as a gateway to Africa when it comes to blue economy. And secondly, even us as an agency, the ocean economy is one of the priority sectors. Not so long, I think on Monday, we're doing some research in terms of in the next coming administration, what are those sectors that we need to look at. So it comes out as one of those sectors. But what I wanted to allude on is that when I was listening to the speaker next to me, I was just thinking economics, because now I'm thinking, how do we then gauge or quantify creative industry contribution to the GDP? When we're alluding to the fact that the trillions of funds that are available within the ocean economy is also one of those sectors that is difficult to quantify, because there are a lot of subsectors within it. If one were to quantify aquaculture, where will you start? If one has to quantify your marine transport and manufacturing, so one has to dig down in terms of quantifying those issues. So basically, what I wanted to moderator to also add, which is also critical, is that, especially maybe to young people as well, or to entrepreneurs within the province, is that there are investment opportunities within the continent, and we should not shy away from. From an economics perspective, one could simply take a particular commodity and give you the import demand of that particular commodity and tell you where are the opportunities. So I'll just give an example. If you check, for instance, I wanted to go back to that when we were telling you that we are dealing with some climate change issues. Globally, the investors, they are tapping into that space, especially in Africa, because of the aggressive push toward a environmental friendly economy. So if you look at the latest, there was a report that was released by the United Trade and Development on the foreign direct investment in the world. If you zoom into Africa, you will see that in terms of the inflows, there is a shift in terms of sectors. Most of the FDIs now, they are in clean energy sectors. They are in your green hydrogen, they are in your solar and wind power project, they are in your electric manufacturing vehicles. So if you look at it deeply, you will see that there is that shift. So how do you deal with that shift? You look at the value proposition of Africa. I'll just give an example of the fact that if you look at the size of Africa food and agriculture market, it shows that by 2030, in 6 years to come, that sector will be well worth $1 trillion US billion. So you could see that the demand that will come from entrepreneurs in terms of farmers and so forth, and as well as processors, as well as other players within the value chain, what it presents. And if you see very well that we still have, as a continent, 60% of uncultivated land that needs to be tapped in, and it's arable land. So these opportunities, they are really available and they are there because now it's an issue of diversifying. If you look at, for instance, at minerals, on its own, you could tell that, for instance, now, because even the continent is moving toward, we might become even a hub for this electric vehicle manufacturing globally. So what are those components that goes to that particular facility? One could say that I was so astonished when I read an article from Bloomberg pointing that, in fact, they were comparing Africa with China, US, and Poland. They found that in terms of production cost, we are 3 times lesser than those countries. And when you look, for instance, all these key minerals that are used in manufacturing those in Southern Africa, but they're exported as raw materials, and then the same electric batteries, they are sent back to the continent. So that's a missed opportunity. That's a foregone investment opportunity that one could tap into. So the last point that I wanted to maybe allude to, moderator, is the fact that when it comes to data, I was so excited when I saw that the other session it will want it. I just want to touch base from an investment perspective. The lack of better data is an issue in the entire continent. And thirdly, we have investment promotion agencies across the globe that are positioned to provide that economic intelligence. Like in our province, we have the Trade Investment KwaZulu-Natal, so that any investor who tap into the space must be able to get some kind of risk assessment, must be able to get some kind of market analysis that short, straight to the point kind of investment sentiment. So that data sometimes is missing. We have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that is ongoing. And we know those countries are heterogeneous and fragmented, and they have varying statistical reporting capabilities. So one has to find a way of saying, how can you then make sure that, because there's that perception that about Africa in terms of risk, but we need that kind of better data to change the narrative that we are a high-risky country, but by making sure that we have that data that is going to support or show in terms of growth, in terms of areas of improvement, then we'll be able to, to tap into the untapped investment potential of the continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zwane. You've given us a lot of economic intelligence and issues that we need to consider. So ladies and gentlemen, that is our panel. They've given us their thoughts. And I just want to check, what time was till 2 o'clock? So we've got 10 minutes. And I would like the opportunity to the floor. Are we able to turn the house lights on? Is that possible or no? Sorry? I see one hand. Yeah, no, I'm going to see the hands. It'll just be easier for me to see the hands. That's better. Okay, great. Okay, the lights are on. So I think we can take... use this roving mic here. Okay, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to take 3 from this side and 3 from this side. Okay. Mr. Nene, the gentleman there. So that gentleman's first. His hand was up first. Gentleman there. No, you go first, sir. Then Mr. Nene and then gentleman.
Thank you.
First.
My name is Siboniso Mjali. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, Your Highness. Let me refer my question to Dr. Mafumbo. You were very much fortunate. Just 2 weeks ago, we were the first recipient to study aquaculture. So you've got 15 people that are ready there, that you can use them, whatever it is. We were trained as a TOT, train of the trainers. Why I'm referring that to you? Because there's a red tape when it comes to aquaculture, because it's not for, the black people are not familiar with those kind of things. So we've got 15 people. Please adopt us from here. We are 15. We're first recipient. We want to do aquaculture. We want to study it. We're interested in fishing, all kind of fishing. Thank you.
And I will come and buy your first fish and chips. The gentleman over there with the shirt, yeah, he's got a mic already. And then Mr. Nene after him. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
All right, good morning to everyone. It's actually good afternoon.
Yeah.
I'd like to pose just 3 questions to Dr. Mafumbo.
Hey, 3, that's a lot, huh?
Okay, fine. I'll cut it to 1. You mentioned something about the ocean's economy. How far are we as a country with the desalination of seawater?
Okay, number 1, yeah.
Yeah, because we are harbored by the Indian and the Atlantic Ocean. And countries like Netherlands are using hydrophonic energy to propel a lot of the turbo engines. So how far are we as a country? And then the last question I'd like to pose is, mostly in universities and technologies, you'll find chemical, mechanical, and electrical engineering, but rarely will you find something about marine engineering. When do we start introducing that as a discipline within the engineering faculty? Those are the 2 questions since I've been
Very good
cut. Thank you.
questions. Thank you very much. Mr. Nene, you're in the front.
Okay, thank you very much. It's Pindani Nene, the Managing Director of Sea, Land and Air. Basically, when it comes to these industries, one has tried very hard to push and make sure that our young stars are getting into them. In fact, for Durban, I started a program in 2011 where I moved black kids, especially in our townships, to introduce them to things like jet skis, surfing, and all of those. But I did this right up to 2018, and you know how our country works. Once it gets to that point where it's successful and people are already getting jobs, it's no longer yours. It's a government thing, so move away. We don't want you here. That is what has happened. But there's another big project that I started with Toyota. You know, I changed the, Ilovo place there. It was a farm, and I negotiated that farm to become an industrial zone. We agreed with Toyota that they would want to establish a motor hub. Everything was done, and then in 2016, the president came down to launch it, and it was supposed to start, and Toyota committed that they will be employing 5,000 people plus in order now to make products 100%, not this thing of importing things, but to try and create things within South Africa. Up to this point, we are still waiting because of the EIA programs. They are still doing environmental studies. You cannot do this because there is a frog here. people will lose jobs because there is a frog, a specific frog. So we are in a serious challenge here in South Africa. It's not about opportunities. It's about how we manage and run our laws. So the red tapes are actually taking us back as a country. These red tapes are taking us back. I've done quite a bit when it comes to oceans economy. Right now, I've just introduced aviation at DUT so that they don't look at a person as a pilot. Our people must learn how to actually create products for aeroplanes, to do everything about aviation, but it's not. We are in serious trouble. We need to look at our education. You can't be going to school for 12 years and you can't make even a toothpick. All you know is to speak English. And when it comes to the reality, there is no reality. Unfortunately, you know, we went to Japan with Dr. Mkhize in 2011. I don't know, you read the story saying Dr. Mkhize visiting Japan unprepared. Because when we arrived there, a grade 5 learner, standard 3, when you look at how much products this person can make, there is so much. You look at the watch, they make it. You look at the cell phones that we are using now, they provide facilities. And the last thing that I want to introduce to you, I changed Busisiwe High School at Umbumbulu. I built classes to make sure that they've got the place to do practical things. This was done in 1990 to 92 and was finished, supported by Toyota. Up to this point, the school is not focusing on practicals. So we need to challenge our government and say, please, change our educational system. It's very sad. You know, I work with big schools like your Michael House or Hilton and all these schools. You know what? Their kids don't go to varsity because as he's sitting to you, he will say, Dad, how do I make this? And he will end up employing your kid that will spend 5 years at UCT. And what we need to do, we need to change this. Unfortunately, the teaching, my suggestion to the teaching and the education system is that as people retire, they must employ new people with new technology, with new knowledge, with new everything. So we need to change the system for our country.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I've visited so many countries. As a person that was responsible for the World Cup, I visited quite a number of countries. If you look at countries like Sweden, they don't have metric. They are still having JC. Their target age is 16. You start working at the age of 16. And by the time you get to 16, we are an electrician, we are a plumber, we are a designer, we are an artist, we are everything. Here is 12 years of nothing. So I think...
Okay, Mr. Nene, sorry, we need
what I'm saying
we're eating the time for the others.
No, it's fine. But what I'm saying, I'm challenging our city manager and yourself, Mr. Eric Green, to look at these things because they are such a problem.
Sure. Okay, just one more question there. Yeah? So just one more question, yeah? The gentleman in the front, yeah?
Okay.
And then we'll take the answers from the floor.
Well, thank you very much. This is not it's partly a question, partly a contribution to the ongoing conversations. Thank you for the panel and everybody giving us the narratives on investment. I'm proud to have been being raised in Africa as a young African person, And when I graduated from the local universities in Africa, I got an opportunity to go to England and in London. And I've been there as an engineer for the last 22 years. And I've gained industrial expertise and technological innovation and innovative skills. So I'm here to say I'm proud as an African from the diaspora, the concepts which were being talked yesterday by the panel, that the diaspora can change the African. So I'm here as one of the models. To be honest, the monies that I've gained as an engineer, as a young person, I'm proud to say I've invested in Pretoria. Last week, I bought some land in Pretoria. I'm signing for the deeds next week. It's title deeds, so I don't owe the bank anything or anybody. It's innovation, and I'm looking forward to do it here in KZN, because I've got a son here in KZN. But what I'm wanting to say to contribute to the two industries that have been mentioned, the performance arts, the Lion King, I've been to Lyceum Theatre, all right? And the marine aspect, I'm very much, on my way from Johannesburg to here to Durban, I sat next to a young lady. She's in the marine, so I was asking about marine, as you were saying, but she didn't seem to have a clue, but she is studying marine. So I'm saying, when you talked about it, all I want to say is, here am I. I'm going to present my cards, my business cards to you, because I founded an engineering company in England, based in England, but to invest back here and to encourage and to speak with the city fathers here, how we can encourage innovation as has been implemented by our elder here, and how to promote that innovation, how it can be managed. So here am I to say, in the coastal industry, there's a lot that goes on in terms of oil exploration and everything. So there's instrumentation, there's electrical, there's platforms, there's structural engineering involved. So my question is basically are there any feasibility studies you've done in terms of innovation for the coastal areas? I know you've touched a bit about them, but I'm saying I'm one of the models here. I'm here, and I'm gravitating back to Africa, and I'm sure I'll give you my business card, and then we can start on the program. But it's doable, it's feasible, and we're going to do it. Here am I, I'm one of them. Come, let's do it. I bought land in Pretoria. I want to buy land here as well, as a local African boy.
Thank you very much, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the questions, and the panel can respond. But just before the panel responds, there was a question about desalination. I'd like to respond because I'm part of that process in the city system, in that the Japanese government has agreed to give us grant funding to do the pilot and to do the feasibility. The pilot is being proposed here on the Bluff Headland. However, the transaction advisors are still finalizing it, because the one key issue about desalination plants is that it needs power to run the turbines 24/7 to convert the seawater into drinking water. And because of the unreliability of Eskom's power over the last few years, that project has been put on hold for now. I think it's there, but a lot of countries around the world are doing desalination. However, the current environment is that our water levels in the dams are all okay for now. But I think we shouldn't rest on our laurels. We still need to make sure that our water security is there in place, and the opportunities to create engineering solutions or technical solutions to have a water security is something that we must look at. And our colleagues from the United States, we would like to hear from you, not necessarily now, but in terms of, because, as the Mkongi of the city, I say that I don't believe in one-night stands. Right? Sorry, that sounded wrong, right? So, all the Americans that have come here, and the gentleman from the UK that got a company in the UK, that once you're our friend for life. So, we're going to make sure that the partnership out of this resurgence has benefit to all of you in particular that live here. And I think, Mr. Nene, I take that challenge. I agree with you. We're slow. We need to be more innovative. We need to rethink. And the commitments that we make, we must act on them. I mean, the issue of Toyota is that there's an automotive cluster. We've been talking about it too long, you know? And the potential, I mean, currently the Toyota car that you drive in this city, only under 40% of that car is locally made. 60% comes from Japan. And that is why it's slightly more expensive that you should be paying. Ideally, we should have a motor car that is at least 50% locally or even more, so that the cost of that car is cheaper and it creates local jobs. So those are the kinds of things we need to tell. And I agree with Mr. Nene that we're slow, and our education system is not preparing our young people for the world of work. And I also think that we don't all have to be administrators or civil servants or lawyers or doctors. I mean, it's great to be that, but our country needs a lot of plumbers, even plumbers and electricians that can install solar panels. That's where the money is. So that's the things that, so colleagues, over to the panel. I'll start with His Royal Highness, and then Dr. Mfumbu, and then Mr. Zwane, and then lastly, Mr. Kunene. Please, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that. And I wanted to particularly respond to your comments, brother, here. In the United States, there's always been this idea of trade schools that have been a strategy to get members of our community who are forgotten, disenfranchised, opportunities for work. You know, one of our legends in the United States is Booker T. Washington, and he created a school to teach black people in the South real life skills. I'm a scholar in residence to the president of City College in Harlem, New York City, and they built a school, an extension of the regular university that has from bachelor's, master's to PhD, the Charlie Rangel Institute for civil and economic jobs. And this school is literally teaching people how to become plumbers, how to do construction, how to do the jobs that are gonna give them real life money and experience, because everybody, again, is not going to be the doctor or the lawyer. There are many people who have brilliance in agriculture, have brilliance in using their hands in these ways. So I love your emphasis on the strategy of not only training young people in those skills, but then the next part is connecting them directly to opportunities to create the products to stay in this country versus the materials being taken from the country and being created other places.
Thank you. Just briefly, I can see we're pressed against time. I didn't do justice when it comes to climate change. Yesterday, President talks about renewable energy revolution. He used that phrase. But I just want to highlight a few issues which are an implication of that. One is to draw a nexus or a linkage between renewable energies and land ownership, because renewable energies, you implement them through land. You must have the land to have the wind farms. You must have the land to have the solar PV farms. Therefore, we must think about that as we talk about in a renewable energy revolution, who stand to benefit. Yes, we want it because it's a policy trajectory in terms of the transition. But at the end of the day, if we don't own the land, because again, 70% of the land we know is owned by who, and then what do we stand to benefit as black people? It's something that we really need to ponder about. Another one is the renewable energy, jobs, skills, nexus. Are we trained to take opportunities of this new economy? Do we have the prerequisite skills to be active role players in the renewable energy space? Because the reality is jobs will be lost, it's a fact. If you transition from fuel-based economy, jobs will be lost. Then if you go to a green economy, new jobs will be created. But who stand to benefit in the new jobs? Do we have the skill requisite to take advantage of that? I just wanted to pose that. Just in those few questions that were posed, I think we can talk about outside of this, because I think I need to rechannel you to proper people, because I know in the city we should have those who are responsible for cooperative assistance, SMMEs, and so on, which we can talk about that on the side. Desalination, I think you've spoken about it, but I can simply say we're still stuck in R&D, research and development. Unfortunately, we spend more money and more time in research and development than you've heard. We're still talking about pilot studies and this. We don't move fast from R&D to the real substance. I think that's where we are, and the policy uncertainty in terms of desalination, because there's still a lot of argument and debate about it instead of doing it. Then the EIA one, I think I'm done. There's a red tape reduction task team, Legacy, at the presidential office. I guess maybe we'll have to cascade it down to be at the provincial level and at the municipal level so that we can deal with the EIA as the red tape would debunk it. Then any feasibility study, Mhlekazi, oh, I'm sorry to say Mhlekazi. Mhlekazi means I am closer, yeah. Then there are feasibility studies. There is a Oceans Economy Master Plan of up to 2035. There is also regional hydrogen roadmap or strategy for the city, but we can talk about that. There are a lot of feasibility study within the eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality.
Mr. Zwane, and then Mr. Konene will have the last word.
Okay, thanks, moderator. I think mine is quick. I just wanted to help the doctor here with regard to the aquaculture response. Yes, we know that it's a major component within the ocean economy. So the current status quo is that at national, in terms of the aquaculture pillar, they are still at the piloting stage. So they're trying to roll out some aquaculture project throughout the country. So KZN is one of those selected province where they're trying to roll out some aquaculture because it's not a big sector. So they're trying to see how they can integrate your fish ponds with your aquaponics, where you'll have your vegetables, getting the nutrients from the tunnels and so forth. So it's almost like it's still at an initial stage, but we're hoping that in the next coming administration, it will receive a lot of priority. Number two, what I want to recommend on, I think that's the last point,
So just take the mic closer.
Okay. So I was basically saying that aquaculture is one of the prioritized, or is one of the pillars of the ocean economy, and nationally, the status quo is that they are still, the sector is still at the pilot stage, and even in the province, there are a lot of activities that are done by the Department of Economic Development, as well as takers, and they've also prioritized the sector because they want to bring a lot of investment in that space. Secondly, when you look at the 5 local municipalities within the coastal area, one will then say we need to advocate for the inclusion of especially the aquaculture sector so that it can benefit the rural communities that are found within the coastal line so that they can realize the economic benefit that comes with the sector. The reason is that when you look at those countries that are doing very well in terms of aquaculture and the coastal lines, because of the communities around that area, they've been benefiting a lot in terms of fishing and aquaculture. So if you can integrate that subsector within the LEDs of those 5 local municipalities, will therefore be at the position to start deriving the benefits of ocean economy.
Thanks, Mr. Zwane. Mr. Konene?
Thank you so much for this honor for us to be here and also share our views. I think while I was here, and also I live in New York, and I'm also realizing that we also have a major problem with unemployment. It's double digits. So I work with some of our embassies and also our consul generals in the United States. And I've managed to get some investors that are interested to come and build a high-speed train after I heard our president talking about a high-speed train. The first one they talked about is from Johannesburg to Durban. So we need to get on that because that would create a lot of jobs. Another one is building smart cities. Among our delegates here, we have Mr. Peebles who's doing Afrikaner, but we also have other investors that are interested to come and build smart cities here. As a matter of fact, we're having a smart city conference in Johannesburg, September 12th. Another one that I need to address, our MC talked about the landfills. We do have a cutting edge technology from the Japanese. They can come here and deal with that so that we create jobs. We can do trash to energy. All that trash, we can turn it into energy. With all that said, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to my panelists. I think it is, but I was going to ask Mr. Konene and His Royal Highness to do one more song. But I think we'll have to pay you for that, right? It'll be a duet. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank our panelists for sharing us their insights. But someone did send me a WhatsApp message and said, some of these conversations, like we've heard them before. I mean, some new innovations that have come from the panel. But I think what we're saying is that it's time to act. The 30 years, we've achieved a lot as a country, but it's a time to act. And I think yesterday's Mandela's Day also said we should make the Mandela Day and every day a Mandela Day. We care for people, but we build our economy. And I think Mr. Nene is throwing that challenge to us here today. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. And I think we can adjourn now. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Singobile, ready when you are, ma'am, and your panel guests. Snobily, your phone. Ladies and gentlemen, just a quick change in our program. Unfortunately, the panel that just ended ran well over the allocated time, and it has slammed straight into lunch, which is unfair for the delegates who are here when the other stream is over. So if I can ask all of you to proceed to lunch, and then when you come back, we will then allow an opportunity for Stream 3 to present their brief conversation and then continue with the program. You'll be ushered back in shortly from lunch. Thank you.